Good afternoon. What is it, 10 after 12 up there? I was up late. I watched the football game last night. Another great game. Looks like it could be a really good season this year because there's some exciting games. I hope the politicians don't fuck it up. We'll see what happens there. Okay, one of the first things that I went into talk about is speaking of football, is these high school football deaths. Now, I've read of in the last month or so at least 4 kids that have died after collisions or something in the game. Now, go back to when I was in high school. I graduated in '63. Our equipment wasn't as good, but the plays weren't as exotic. Blocking patterns weren't as exotic. The guys weren't as fast as they are now. Guys bulked up with on weights and whatnot, and that's how they performed. Speedsters were rare, and head injuries weren't. You got mostly ankle and knee and leg injuries. There were very, 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 very few head injuries that I am aware of now. Does that mean they didn't happen? No. You have to remember news reporting was entirely different back then. Okay? It may have happened, it may not have happened. Because we basically only knew what happened in our immediate area. Those kinds of stories didn't make national news. Today, these kids are not on steroids so much. They're on strength-producing drugs. Yes, I guess you could say steroids, human hormones. They take them when they're young because they don't check it that much in schools, high schools, especially in the powerhouse schools in the Midwest and South and whatnot, And these kids are playing for their lives because this is how they get into college. This is how they get a good job. This is how they make money. Failure isn't acceptable, so they play hard. They do whatever they can. Their parents are nuts. They really are. The parents are absolutely worse than the kids. They'll shove anything they can in that kid's mouth to make sure he gets where he's going because they can't afford to send him to college. No matter how, you have to either be brilliant or you have to be an athlete of some sort. And the best scholarships and the best money is from football. Football players are getting paid to go to school now. It's not really, they get their education while they're playing football or after they played football, but they're not getting an education when they're in college to play football. They're in the school to play football, and they're actually being paid now, which I think is ridiculous, because I think you're doing those kids, a great deal of disservice. There was, I can't remember this guy's name again, I'm drawing a blank. But the most famous incident I remember was that they had this a player. I believe he was a tackle. I don't know if he was offensive or defensive. I can't remember his name. But he played for the Washington Redskins. I remember this. And when he graduated, when he finished, he went to a very prestigious school too. I don't remember that either. And he graduated. You have to understand, he graduated college. Because back when he was playing, you had to graduate college before you could, play football. So he is at least 21, 22, 23, something like that. Could be a little older. And he goes out and into the real world, and they find out that he cannot read. He is what is called a functional illiterate. Now, since then he can read and everything like that, but they taught him to read. But he went through 4 years of college and I don't know how many years of pro football without being able to read. And first of all, that's a pretty cool, I think that's a pretty fascinating fact that he was able to pull that off. I don't know exactly how much, but he was considered to be a functional illiterate. Now that's just one example of this, There are a lot of these guys that never make it into the pros, or if they do, they don't last very long. They don't make it to the Hall of Fame or anything like this. This guy was a Hall of Fame player. This guy was great. Listen, I think you need to check on the equipment and how it fits, check on the coaching, and check on the parent influence on over these children and whatnot that are playing the game. All right, okay. What else is going on? Speaking of children, you've got Trump and J.D. Vance are preaching this. They abuse childless couples and whatnot, and they think, well, all women should have children. Yet, when you bring up things like child care, and this is just child care, this isn't anything above that, all right? They don't have a way for people to pay for it. It's extremely expensive to raise a child. It's over. If you go to take a child to college, it's over $1 million, well over $1 million to get him into, a college. Not going to Stanford or UCLA, just a college. It's extremely expensive to do this. Where does the money come from? If you're middle income. If you're rich, you don't worry about things like that. But if you're middle income, you worry about things like that. If you're low income, the kids don't have a shot, What was it? I think it was Jay in the American song, only in America can you go to bed a pauper and wake up and be president. That's not true anymore. You go to bed a pauper, you wake up a pauper. That's more than likely the scenario of your life. That's the problem with this country. That's why we have the violence that we have. I've said this before. Take a kid, 15-year-old child, sophomore in high school, freshman in high school, whatever. I don't know what the ages are anymore. I graduated when I was 16 and a half, or 17 and a half, so, everybody was older than me. But anyhow, take a 15-year-old and put him in, now we didn't have drug dealers like making the money that they're making today. So everything was different back then. The economics was a little bit different. But take a child, a 15-year-old child, say to him, if you want to go to school, listen, you want to go to college, we need a little help, you have to, you want to spend some money, we'll take care of some things, but if you want extra money for stuff, you got to go get a job. So the guy goes out and gets a job, okay? And he's sweating his nuts off, working, I don't know, say an 8-hour day plus going to school, or a 4-hour day plus going to school, whatever. In a very demeaning job. I don't want to say really demeaning, but it's hard work. It's not, boring hard work. And there's his buddy pulling up to school every morning in a brand new Cadillac Escalade, with the spinners on his wheels and everything like that. Man, what the fuck is with you? Where'd you get all that goddamn money? I sell a little bit of this and a little bit of that, Well, where are you working? How hard are you working? What do you got, 2 jobs? He says, I work maybe 2 hours a day, maybe 4 hours a week, What's he do? He sells drugs. So now the kid looks at this. Now, you take the kid with plus the peer pressure of living in a neighborhood where the gangs rule. So, this is another, pressure point for this kid to turn into a bad boy. And a lot of them do. And a lot of them those are the reasons. So how do we stop this? When you don't want to increase child care, you don't want to help parents raise children, daycare and things like that. You say, well, let's call your grandmother up. Man, my grandmother was, never mind. My grandmother was a nice lady, but she didn't live in New Jersey when I was a kid, okay? So, and I only had one. My other one, I have no idea what happened to her or where she was. I know a lot of kids that don't know their grandparents. I know others that have their grandparents living with them and there's no problem. They have their parents and their grandparents there. So they're set, My dad here, my wife's family has has us and has their and her own family, and they said we go over there and we babysit and we do whatever we can to help them out. You know, so there's a, you know, that's possible down here. It's not possible in the United States a lot of times. The reporter was saying, you know, when she reported, she said, I couldn't do that. My mother lives 5 states over, 10 states over. You know, she's working in New York City and she's not from New York. Okay, so the transitability of our people, you know, they take care of that. So I don't know how they're going to do this, and they don't seem to know, because when asked the question, they came up with weird or no answer at all. So that's out of the question. I see where Dick Cheney is supporting Harris. I don't know whether that's good or bad. You know, I didn't even know Dick Cheney was still alive. So, you know, he was a real unlikable person back in the day, so I don't know how that's going to influence voters. You know, we'll have to wait and see. But there are a lot of Republicans that are voting for Harris simply because, not because simply Trump is unlikable. It's because he doesn't have any policies or anything. He's crazy. You know, it's as simple as that. Okay, now that we were talking, I see where Barron Trump is getting him to his father Donald to go in and do some look at or listen to some really outrageous, dangerous podcasts, and I guess Ivana's doing the same thing. So I was sitting here and I'm saying that these two people are prime material to become, what do you call it, mass shooters, you know, as time goes on. You know, I mean, I could see Barron doing it, you know, because that family is just, it's a mess, you know. You know, you can't say, well, there's not a loving family. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. There's absolutely very little, if any, public show of emotion with that family. Between Melania and Barron and Ivanka and Donald and whatnot, you know. Supposedly Donald really loves Ivanka because Ivanka's similar in personality and whatnot to him. She's a little smarter than he is, but you know, and it was the heir apparent to the political throne is Ivanka, because that's the direction the country's headed in, females, politicians. But I don't know how Ivanka can be supportive of a man that's just is damaging to the female personage. You know, doesn't want to. He's got all sorts of accusations against him. He's actually had one that's gone to court twice, and he's been proven guilty twice. And he wants to go a third time because every time he goes, though, he loses more money. They're gonna, you know, sooner or later they're gonna say no. We're going to just start collecting our money now, you know, and that's the deal about appealing for a third trial, is to stop it till he becomes president and he can void all it, and he believes he can void all this crap, you know. And that's why he wants to be president, because he doesn't care about the country, you know. You should ask him some geography questions someday, you know, this Mr. I am so intelligent. And then I'm sure he's got a way around that, you know. I don't know every big city in the country, but I can look at a map without names and names all the states. Or I used to be able to. I'm assuming I still can. I don't know. I don't think he could do that. You know. I've made it around a lot of states. I don't know, other than the popular ones, I don't know where he goes. You know, uh, I guess they do go to all the states, uh, but whether or not they know what anything about the state that they're going into shows up, I don't know. Anyhow, that's. I'm looking at my notes, and I think that's it. I covered everything I wanted to cover for the day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Listen, somebody might have to send me a copy of the debate because I don't know how I'm going to watch it down here because I'm not going to pay money to watch it, to tell you that. All right. Anyhow, I'll talk to you tomorrow. See you later.